three questions have come up as we've been talking about the creative visualization course. Number one, what it is. Number two, what I can use it for. And number three, really, how do I learn this stuff? Let's talk about what creative visualization is first. In order to understand the creative visualization, picture this. There are two fundamentally different kinds of worlds. One is the world that Plato calls the world of phenomena, which is the physical world, and then there's the world of ideas, which could be called the spiritual world. Plato called it the ideal world. So these two worlds, these two realities, if you will. Normally, these two realities appear to be separate, independent of one another. Now, in certain faiths, they talk about miracles. And in the context of those faiths, a miracle is essentially a leak of one reality, a reality from the spiritual world that leaks into the physical world. So a person may have an illness, and without taking any medication or surgery or going to the doctor or anything, somehow the illness disappears. And that's because in the spiritual world, that illness doesn't exist, and that reality, in the spiritual reality for that person, is one of health. And if only we could bring that reality down onto the physical body, then the person would be instantaneously healed. So if the person does absolutely nothing for this to happen, some would call that a miracle. What creative visualization is your ability to, in this context, create a miracle on your own. Because we can simply sit around and wait for miracles to happen, or we can create a bridge between the ideal world and the world of phenomena ourselves, using the power and talents that we have all been given as a birthright. We all have this ability. We just have to learn to use it and to develop it. So essentially, creative visualization allows you to connect an ideal reality for you to your reality here in this physical world. And in practice, what that allows you to do is to change your life in different ways. So let's talk about what you can use creative visualization for. Well, for anything that you want to change or adjust. Our reality, the way we live our lives, is basically a construct of our own thoughts and our own feelings, but not just what we thought about last night, what we have been thinking about potentially for thousands of years. We have been building up this reality over a long, long time. It's a cumulative creation in our minds, and our minds create our reality. Edgar Cayce, the so-called sleeping prophet, he died in 1945, but he became, he's a very famous, there's the Cayce Institute in Virginia Beach. I mean, if you look up Edgar Cayce, there's a whole bunch of information about him and his work and so forth. And one of his famous phrases was, mind is the builder, physical is the result. So our physical lives are the result of our mental patterns, what we have been thinking and building with our minds. And that's the default. So if you want to know what a person has been thinking over the last number of thousands of years, just observe their lives very carefully. Now remember this, all of us have a perception of ourselves that isn't quite accurate. In other words, I might tell you that I'm like this and like that and like that, and then you get to know me and you say, well, Flavio, you're not quite like that. Well, I see myself this way, you see? So we perceive ourselves in a way that isn't quite accurate. Now, some would call this denial, some would call this by different names. But because we don't see ourselves as we really are, we don't quite make the necessary adjustments. Look, I'll give you an example, and this is another area that we are strongly working with many people, which is weight adjustment. And the reason why we're so, and the reason why we work so strongly with weight adjustment is because science knows today that a whole number of diseases, in fact, one of the biggest scourges to our society, the cost, not just the human cost, but also the economical cost, is diabetes, and because of all of its complications. The cost of diabetes is huge, and a whole lot of it does have to do with weight management. There are other medical issues there, but a whole lot of it can be ameliorated, can be decreased, can be improved if the person ate less, if the person adjusted their weight. And in the weight course, in the weight management course, in the weight adjustment course, we're going to get into this in detail. But here we're talking about creative visualization. So in the case of weight adjustment, you have extreme cases. Let's say in anorexia nervosa, where a person is very, very skinny, they're well underweight, they're not healthy anymore. It is dangerous to be that far underweight. But the person looks at him or herself and says, well, I still have some fat to get rid of. I still don't have enough, I'm still not skinny enough. In other words, what they see is not what other people see. And I know that this is a very crude explanation, and I apologize for the crudeness of the explanation, particularly if you watching me are dealing with this difficulty. Remember, I work with this stuff all the time, and I have a whole lot of empathy for this type of situation. I'm just trying to explain within the context of visualization. And the same thing happens when there's extreme obesity. Sometimes the person doesn't see that. They might say, yeah, I'm a couple pounds overweight, whatever. No. And I see this all the time here at the office. A person will come in and they're perhaps 80, 90, 100 pounds overweight. This is not my estimation. This is what they tell me, because there are tables and charts that can calculate a person's ideal weight, and that's a different conversation. But I ask them, what's your current weight right now, ballpark figure? And they tell me it's about 100 pounds overweight. And I ask them very casually, well, what do you think you have to lose in order to? And they say, well, about 20 pounds would be great, because if I could. And I understand that there's a whole lot of emotions there regarding failure in the past, and they don't want to commit to a huge goal and then fail again. I understand all of that, but the point I'm making is that when we examine the person's idea of what their body is like right now, they might think that they're 20 pounds overweight, when in reality they might be 100 pounds overweight. And it is that distortion of reality that we all experience. We don't see ourselves as we really are, and because we don't see ourselves as we really are, we don't quite make the necessary corrections. In other words, if I'm looking at a television and I'm watching channel 12, let's say, but I really want the programming that comes from channel 20, right? I'm looking at it. Oh, wait a second. It says right there, channel 12, but I don't want channel 12. I want channel 20. I use the remote control and I change the channel on the television. So what I'm saying is, we observe reality, we compare what we observe with what we want, and if they don't match, we make the appropriate changes. Now imagine that you walk into the living room and you see me watching channel 12 and you ask me, what are you watching? I say, well, I'm watching channel 20. From your perspective, oh, dude, this guy is great. Not really. I see there channel 12. But I keep on telling you that this is channel 20 because I want channel 20, and because I think I'm watching channel 20, I don't make any adjustments. I don't go up and change the channel on the TV. So the first step for visualization has to do with an accurate assessment of the issues that we believe we want to change. We have to see exactly what the situation is. In this silly example, if the TV is tuned to channel 12 and I want channel 20, well, I have to go up 8 channels. I have to move the selector. I have to make certain adjustments, which is different from if I want a channel 5, let's say. I have to move it in a different direction, up or down. In other words, I first have to know exactly where the issue is at. So the very first step in creative visualization is a very accurate assessment of where the situation is at. We have to start with that. And because we don't often practice this assessment, then we don't often make the adjustment. But we do have the ability to make the adjustments and connect our ideal reality to our current reality. If only we could see both of them, we can connect them. So let's say, just to continue with the example of weight adjustment, let's say a person is 100 pounds overweight and they finally became aware of that. And when they see themselves as they can be, they see themselves as fit and trim. If we can connect that reality, you see, if they can basically incorporate that reality in their minds, suddenly the adjustments become obvious. Their behaviors change, the way they talk change, the way they walk changes, everything changes. And because of those behavioral changes, which are themselves the result of mental changes. You see, first we change the self-image, then our behaviors will change in the physical world. And because the behaviors change in the physical world, our physical reality changes. And eventually it approaches, it conforms more and more and more to our ideal reality. So creative visualization is the science, the art, the skill of connecting our ideal reality to our physical realities in such a way that we bring that ideal to the physical, and in so doing we begin to make important changes in our lives. So based on this explanation, the second question, what can I use it for? Well, the answer is anything that you want to change in your life, particularly if it depends on you. It is true that later we're going to study how to help others with creative visualization, but in this first course we're going to learn how to help ourselves. All kinds of issues. 21 years doing this. So quite a lot of experience doing this both on myself and with many thousands of other people. And in this class I'm going to show you all of it, how it's done. So the other question is, how do I learn this stuff? There have been several procedures developed for people to learn to creatively visualize. I'm going to share these procedures with you. The way we're going to do this is we're going to be together in this course for 4 weeks. Every week you're going to get a number of lessons. You're going to get access to a portal, you need a computer or a phone. It works both on your phone or your smartphone and on the computer. Both ways work. You're going to get access to a portal. In other words, you're going to get a login and password, and you're going to log into basically your school. It's a virtual school. That's what the name Views come from. So first you're going to register for class, then you're going to sign up, you're going to show up to class, and you're going to see there some video lessons, some lessons much like this, where I explain different concepts. In some cases, I might interview other people, depending on the course that we're doing. In some cases, I might have charts, the different types of aids, depending on the particular course. At the end of that week, once you go through those lessons and perform the suggested exercises, at the end of that week, we're going to meet live, face-to-face on the computer. It's called a webinar. Many of you have vast experience with webinars. Some of you don't. Don't worry. Those of you who are not familiar with webinars, I'll have an explanation of how to do the whole thing, how to set the whole thing up, and it's relatively simple nowadays. It doesn't cost you anything. Not the webinars, not the classes, none of this costs you anything. What we're doing this for is to bring awareness of this gift that we all have as human beings to as many people as possible. But when I say as many people as possible, because of technical constraints as far as the webinars and the ability to deliver these videos, I only have, for now, a limited number of spots, a limited number of students that we can take, basically, because of a number of technical constraints. And speaking of technical constraints, if you're not very computer savvy, don't worry, I'm not either. I'm basically learning right now how to do these videos, how to hook up all these pages and all this stuff. So I know the stuff is really crude right now, technically speaking. It will get better over time, as everything does. And by the way, if you have skills in this area and if you're willing to offer a hand or give me some suggestions, I would totally appreciate it. I don't feel offended, quite the opposite. I feel grateful if you offer some suggestions on how to improve all of this stuff. Because we want to make it accessible, we want to make it pleasant for others to see and watch and so forth. But the important thing here is that we're going to learn how to visualize. We're going to perform some experiments and you're going to get results. So this is basically what the Creative Visualization course is all about. Now there's one final favor I must ask you. In order to start the class, we have to fill it. It's a small class, but we have to fill it. I have a few spots available. I'm not sure in this particular class how many spots are available. I have to check. But what I'm asking you to do is, if you would be so kind as to share this link, this page, with other people that you may know, so that they may also join the class with us. Not, if the person is interested, in other words, they have the option. You can share the link. If they want to, they'll sign up for the class. If they don't, they won't, and it's fine. We're not trying we just want to share the opportunity with others, and see if they're interested. If they're not interested, that's perfectly fine. We don't have to force them, we don't have to try to convince anybody. I just ask you the favor to share the idea with others so that we can get together in a group of people who are like-minded, who are interested in this topic, because a great deal of the course in those webinars is going to be our interaction. In other words, questions and answers and comments and experiences. In other words, we're all going to co-create this course together. So we want to be in a group, it's a small group, but we want to be in a group of like-minded individuals who want this knowledge and who want to practice these things, because we can do great things together and individually. All right? So please share this with those that you know and give them the option. In other words, by sharing, what you're doing is giving them the option. If they don't want to do this, they won't, obviously. But if they do, you might just have opened a great door for them and they might thank you indefinitely. So thank you so much for being a part of this project, and thank you for sharing the idea. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the classroom. All right? Thank you so much.